All right. Let's wait for Tia's a few minutes.
It'll be live, it's just taking.
Well, welcome everyone to the last College Council of the year. I don't know about you all, but it went by a lot quicker than I expected. My name is Rick Shabazz. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College. Our City College Council is the highest level of governance for our college, where we discuss matters involving student success, completion, and the operations of our college. A person, an individual, anyone can bring forth an agenda item to College Council one of two ways, either by working with my office, Tia or Angel in my office, and or working with one of the amazing leaders of our various constituency groups who I'm going to introduce momentarily. That is how you can get an agenda item on College Council. Want to begin College Council with our land acknowledgement. San Diego City College acknowledges that our campus sits on the traditional land of the Kumeyaay Nation. We recognize the Kumeyaay people, past and present, and their land with honor and gratitude. The first item on College Council is the roll call. Mona is the Academic Senate President. Nick is the President-elect Academic Senate. And Whale is standing in for Vice President, Tilly Chavez, Vice President of Instruction. Yeah. Robbie is the Dean of Information and Learning Technology.
Present.
Caesar is the Public Information Officer. Present. Daniel is the Supervisory Rep. Present. Suna is the President of Chairs Cabinet. Susan is the Dean of Institutional Effectiveness and Co-Chair of City Planning and has the distinct honor of having the longest title on here.
Present.
Andy is an administrative rep. Present. Selena is the reason why we are all here. She is the president of the Associated Student Government. John is the vice president of administrative services. Marciano, vice president of students. Present. Sean is the president of the Classified Senate.
Present.
Marco is the coordinator of Professional Learning Council. Present. It's the ideas representative. These are the members of College Council. Again, if you would like to present an item to College Council, you can do so by either reaching out to the president's office or one of these amazing leaders. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the December 2nd meeting minutes. Would someone like to make a motion for approval? You guys want to rock, paper, scissors? Okay, so Manuel approves first, Marcel in second. Any further discussion? Hearing that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone want to abstain or object? Hearing that, the minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is something I am very excited about. I had a chance to travel with a team working on ZTC and OER to Casunas River College, where we saw how a college went from approximately 17% OER ZTC to over 70% and came back very encouraged about the amount of money that college saved their students. Nearly $17 million of costs saved on books. And the person selected from our great faculty ranks at a chance to actually hire her as the first full-time American Sign Language instructor. We're going to turn it over to Melanie, who is coordinating our ZTC OER efforts to provide an update on our efforts in that area. Melanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You want me to again, wherever you're comfortable, doing it or... I don't know that I can follow up with 17 million worth of savings, but maybe 10 million.
Hey, take it.
We'll get there.
Yes.
That's not the right one. I've got one on Google Drive. I got it 2 minutes. That's okay. I changed it around for this audience.
Oh, okay, that's quick. Can you send that? Can you send that?
It's the link.
The one that you have, yeah.
Sure.
And then if you want to just, print it from there. And feed it into the Zoom. Maybe too.
What are you, I don't understand.
So you'll email me the link, the PDF and or the, however you have it. And then you can just speak on it from your computer.
So Tia will run the
Live stream.
slideshow and she can say where she is if she emails the presentation.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, the jump drive comes just. Here, right there.
Go ahead.
I can just
Yes.
get on and go on how that's okay.
Yeah, as long as I call have it to.
We're Team Five, but I'm really that much anyway. First question is, have any of you heard of DTC and OER, and do you think they're the same or are they different? Exactly, they are different, but one thing they have in common is that there's zero cost to our students. So one lies in the public domain, like campus comments, and the other is just strictly zero textbook costs. So maybe a professor publishes his own book and then shares that with the students through Canvas pages. Essentially, they are, a strange thing myself up there, interchangeable terms that can be used to describe what VTC is. So I call it VTC/OER, zero textbook cost. And we have my slideshow ready yet or no?
She can go off of hers at home.
Ricky mentioned saving $17 million at CRC. We have only saved $1.2 million, which is good between 2023 and 2024. We're hoping that we can increase that to 50% within the next 3 years. And one of the reasons for that is results in higher student outcomes. 72% of the students enrolled in OER VTC courses have more successful outcomes compared with 67% with the paid textbook cost. And if you think about that, it makes sense. The students that arrive to class have their materials, the first day of class, there's no delay. They don't have to worry about being an delay check. Right there, they can start the course. In a survey that was conducted by the Online Learning Pathways with Brian Weston and Zidane, 63% of the students stated that the availability of VTC materials was very or extremely important in their decision to enroll in a class. So when they're looking at their course schedule, they might be using a filter for see if they can find the VTC classes. For our students, 63% find that extremely or very important. More reasons for us to go with VTC. Race matters. Latino and Black students indicated that OER VTC courses are more important factors in enrollment decisions than any other factor. Academic area of major, liberal arts and sciences, child development, those two majors found that free courses were most important in their decision to enroll in a professor's course. And lastly, while we think it's important for our students, it's also important for us as faculty to feel like we're benefiting our students, and it's easy for ourselves. 47% of faculty reported that the use of OER had a positive impact on the student success in their course. A variety of reasons: cost savings, faster access to resources, customizability of course materials, and pedagogical flexibility. Yeah, thank you. Looking at City College only, you can see that we only have about 17% of our courses VTC, and we're looking to go to 50%. I have a couple of student testimonials that will talk about their experience using ZTC.
Shut off, so. 1 second. Yeah, it's still not. I don't think we're gonna be able to play them. The audio's on the laptop.
Captions are there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're basically saying that they're, the financial burden having to be for textbook costs and sometimes it's overwhelming for them and they'd rather be saving money on rent, food, gas. So both of these testimonials, students really appreciated faculty that provided teaching materials for their courses and often seek out the courses that are ETC labeled on the course schedule. And we go to the next one. You can see that student cost savings at City College out of, we have digital textbooks, low cost books, used books, and altogether we saved about 1.2 million. Again, this is from database in fall 2024.
Sorry to interrupt again. Can you put it on presentation so it's bigger and maybe get rid of the participants?
Well, the thing is, if I put it on presentation, then I don't know where she wants to be at. She's not going over every slide.
You can just tell you.
That's fine, I'll tell you when to skip over. Based on year 2024, we had 1,100 sections that were OER, were no textbook required, and that's pretty much 24%. But we have decreased in the last year. I'm not sure why we are down to 17%. Perhaps those classes that were DTC could have been cut or eliminated, or those professors that taught DTC are no longer teaching with us. Could be a variety of reasons, but it might be worth looking into investigating where those DTC classes and or maybe prioritizing DTC courses for upcoming semesters. I'll just continue on down. One of Ricky's goals that Evie stated is that he'd like to increase our use of DTC courses to 50% in the next 3 years. And that's the first goal. But we also need to go back and routinely review what is already been converted to OER to ensure that we have inclusion of AFCC IDEA framework and UDL compliant. 73% of the students using OER and DTC reported that the course materials were representative of a diverse perspectives, cultures, and backgrounds. And for me, that really hit home for me because I try to make sure that when I converted our ASL curriculum, that we include non-binary, transgender, people of all races and backgrounds in our talent pool. And I would say the older curriculum with a paid textbook, they traditionally pick white, male, female to do all of the signing of the curriculum. And once I interviewed a variety of talent, the other ASL professors in California were extremely positive in their response and very encouraging and excited to see that we now have a variety of talent. So it's good to know that not only ASL, but other professors are doing the same. A third goal is not only to increase our number of OER courses, but to increase the student use of OER, meaning that we have OER courses, but some students don't know what it even exists. Only 25% of the students were aware of the DTC filter when using a class search, and older and psychology students, 48%, were aware. So not sure again why psychology students were more astute in being able to find that search function. Maybe their psychology professors mentioned it in class. Maybe they have more research skills than other students, but that's something that we need to market and disseminate that information out to our students about that DTC filter so they're aware that the course exists. And then we need to fourthly sustain institutional processes with DTC. For example, some professors do not submit their textbook requisition forms in. And so I created a form asking that went out, I think at the end of November, we have 70 professors who completed it, asking them how much their textbook cost, whether or not it was low cost, full cost, whatever. But students, we need to be more transparent, want to know the approximate cost of the materials on the first day of class. Not arriving to class in our class and then, oh, you need $100 in supplies. They want to know that from the beginning.
Lily, can I ask a quick question? Of the students, the 25% students that were aware of the ZTC, do we have any indication of how they became aware of ZTC? Was it like, I think going back to your point, was it something that the instructor told them or they just found it on their own?
Right. We have no way of knowing that. It just asks, were you aware of the ZTC function, yes or no? And then based on that criteria, they then did another aggregate, looked at the data and separated it out by majors, which then ended up to be psychology majors. Kind of a chi-square, right?
Yeah.
So they figured out yes or no. Now we have yes. Who are the people in the yes group? Oh, we have psychology majors. Why is that so? I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. We're hoping to increase our faculty participation in the DTC process. We want to increase retention rates for our students and working with Sam, AS College Council here, Executive Cabinet, President Shabazz, and trying to really disseminate the word about the importance of DTC. I'm hoping that we can attract more students from other colleges. And by that, I mean, by offering more courses that are DTC, students, quote unquote, go shopping and they say, oh, I'm taking a math class, wonder which one has DTC. And they can look at that search function, DTC, and find out who is offering it at which college at zero textbook cost. I know that we have attracted some new ASL students here because Mesa decided to switch over to another paid textbook that's $100 each semester. And we're ZTC here. So students are doing that shopping. Where can I save $100 or $200 right off the bat? And while some professors may still want to use books, bell hooks, or the English literary books, we are hoping to increase the reserve section at the library through PDF, and then also having the hard copies. And maybe if they want to have the PDF, we make sure that we have the hard copy on hand. So it's called a 1-to-1 ratio, and have the hard copy, check out the PDF. And we're not saying no textbook, we're saying we're still going to have books, but we are hoping that we don't have to pass on the cost to our students. And we have 3 different grants right now. We have the acceleration grant, one I'm working on for American Sign Language. And we're doing a film shoot this week because we're in those hectic weeks. Hoping to finish out that pathway. What that means is all of the courses in the American Sign Language program are going to be ZTC. That's a total of 6 courses. Will all be 0 textbook cost. So student arrives here, like, oh, I want to be an ASL major, it can be ZTC. We also will have 2 more pathways, as you can see under number 3 is ZTC Impact, that will become fully ZTC in the next 2 years. We have designated Com Studies, 100,000, and Business Administration pathway, 100,000. The remainder 120 from that ZTC Impact grant is then earmarked to 16 individual faculty members. We may be adding more throughout this semester, next semester, if they express an interest in doing the conversion. And the second one is the implementation grant, and that money is being used for additional ZTC efforts, campaign kickoff, or release time for ZTC coordinator. As for the process for there's a ZTC Impact grant phases. We have 2 different phases. Phase 1 is where the individual faculty member says, okay, I have Astronomy 101. I want to convert it to ZTC. Are you guys going to pay me or what? And while I can't say $500, it's approximately 20 hours, they will get paid out by their non-classroom hourly rate pay. And then they will continue on to phase 2 to the additional 5 courses. By the end of phase 2, they should be able to insert and say, oh, okay, I know exactly what I want to do. I have an idea. I'm going to do a remix, or I need, you know what, there's really nothing out there. I need to fully write my own script and create my own textbook. And that's phase 3, the actual development. And we have a tier system for phase 3. They will complete a form letting me know, go to the next slide, letting me know about how many hours they think it will take to do the actual conversion. So some people might be doing a remix and then they adapt, or they're full author. So it depends on where they are, they fall on the tier system. We have several different ways we plan on reaching our goals. One is we've done this road show with Andy. He's been going with me to a couple different meetings right now. And we want to have a campaign kickoff at some location, really passing out the swag and mapping this out, having a student faculty panel that Marco has been putting together, a newsletter, pushing that out on the email. And we want to have a mural with a thermometer that shows how we are doing over time, like 17, and then hopefully we'll keep on increasing every 6 months. And as you can see, what my idea is that the convocation will have these little ZTC trackers, one for each department. So the language department's at 50%, but each department will have their own, and they can see how they measure up. The college is right now at 17%. Are you below or higher than that? And lastly, I have kind of an implementation chart that Jessica Wayne put together. She was with us on our retreat. This kind of shows the process of from personnel to data collection, which we have to submit XP12 data reporting, which is the number of ZTC classes we have. We report that to the state. A gap analysis, figuring out which classes need to be converted to ZTC, what are the high impact classes, marketing, and then implementation, scaling, and governance. So this is kind of this is an overall plan. I don't want to go too much into the detail. I know I'm short on time. That's in sum our DTC movement.
Yes.
Any questions?
I've been talking about this with a few different faculty who are interested in getting involved, and we're just wondering, you know, what's the best way to contact and get more information? Maybe show you what they've been doing so far, see how it goes.
Yeah, they can just contact me, that's fine, and I'll get following with them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I've got a couple man's workers that are working with me and are helping, you know, with the admin side of this, so if they wanna reach out to me, we can just get started from there. It's not like, I'm not trying to turn down anyone, I just want them to be aware that it is a kind of a step-by-step process, so that they don't feel overwhelmed or doing the converting process, but it's not as easy. I want them to know that we have resources out there, and there are already collaboration reports that have been published on the Pampers website, and that we're advised to go to those collaboration reports first and take those and then modify as needed for City College. So for example, Comp Studies already has some courses that are ready and are DTC approved, embedded. And so Maria Jose is using those as kind of templates and guidelines and then tweaking them for us to meet our needs.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Yes.
Maura?
Hi, Melanie, thank you so much for doing this important work. So I have more of a comment, and it's not actually for you, it's for administrators in the room, just something to think about as we move forward with this work, which I completely support, because I do think that publishers are making way too much money on the backs of their students. But a couple of things, just as a faculty member, we should be thinking about like what's pedagogically sound for us. And so I know that there might be instances in which faculty in your department have designed CTC courses and there's a pathway in place. And so as the dean, it might feel like the appropriate thing to do for students is to say, well, you know, this new adjunct is going to be teaching this course. Guess what? You already have all these materials, you're going to be teaching it. And that is a violation of academic freedom, right? So I just want to make sure that we're always leaving space for the faculties, whoever is teaching a course, to decide for themselves what is pedagogically sound. They may be an expert in a field. They may decide that based on their expertise, a set of materials are not appropriate, right? For whatever reason. So that's just like a broad statement, because I think the unintended consequence of some of this work is for faculty to feel pressured to use some of this coursework for materials that have already been created by people before them. But you know, every faculty member is different. We definitely need to maintain that freedom to decide what's appropriate for a course at any given moment, because information also changes every single. And I appreciate, Melody, that you added that books are still important, because as an English professor, books are always going to give credit to the course. And I know that there's different ways that we can prevent that cost from being passed on to students. What I would like to see long-term is and this is more state level, is to see an equal focus on low cost as zero textbooks, because I do think that like students can benefit from having a physical textbook, whether that means that the college or district pays for it or the state pays for it, or the student. I think shifting towards lower cost books and just recognizing that we need to read books, that books need to maintain their place, because I worry about the equity issue if our students leave our college district not having really read books and then go to a four-year realizing, oh, we're going to read books. And that's a skill that I may not have mastered, because so just like I'm just thinking ahead and thinking about some of these concerns and making sure that there isn't any situation which faculty feel pressured to teach any particular material in order to like reach a goal.
Agreed, and that may be a good time for me to chime in and first say thank you to Melody for her leadership. I have officially drank the Kool-Aid, and I am going to push this for the reasons that we've heard in the presentation. This will be the focus of convocation, to also
align with what Mona is saying, that this is absolutely not about not having books. This is about not passing on the cost of not just textbooks, but all educational supplies. In a social justice environment should be free for students so that they're not having to decide between buying a book for class or paying rent or paying for transportation. So Mona, to your point, like we've got to figure out a way to raise the necessary money to purchase books, whether it be the most expensive books, $300, $400, $500, whether it be the reserve section, as you've already heard, we've been putting about 15,000 or so a year into reserve sections. We want to thank the faculty who make it a point to put their books in the reserve section. I would not have graduated college if it were not for the reserve section. This really hits home to me because I reached a point where I couldn't afford to buy a physics books or the calculus BC or whatever books that I was having to buy. But I just want to second and echo what Mona is saying, that I'm someone who I've got to read a physical book. I haven't gotten into the tablets or the Kindles and that sort of thing. And I like to highlight and all of those kind of things. And there certainly are studies that say that that translates into a form of learning. But where this is, Mona, is that we'll need the faculty leadership support in a similar way that you reference administration. Like we need the faculty leadership support to say, can we identify some of the most expensive books on campus and agree that if the college does raise enough funds to buy those books, that we don't change them every year? Like, could we keep them for 3 years or could we keep them for 5 years? That would be for the faculty to decide. But I think that's where we have to be in partnership to say, do we fundamentally agree that a student shouldn't be making a decision on taking a class strictly on how much does it cost to buy the materials for that class? And that, for me, is what really this is about, because our students are making those kind of decisions. Like, I'm going to hold off taking this course because I can't afford to buy the materials. And I want to thank Sean Bacon, who joined the team at the advice of, I think, Sunat, if I'm not mistaken, and he's leading the efforts with Sunat and others on the strategic strategic enrollment management committee. I don't know why I did not get that out. And Sean heard and chimed in immediately and said, well, what about the students who can't afford to buy my design software that needed to pass? And this is about all of that how do we as a college rally around the very real needs of our students around financial aid, financial support, to make those things free so that those students who can't afford to pay for them still take the courses they need in order to complete their degree or certificate. And so this is more about aligning things like Guided Pathways, the SIM project, Caring Campus. I feel like I'm missing one other intervention that we were working on that I really believe that this aligns with. But I can assure you, and I'll just say it for the record, there'll never be any pressure on any faculty member to do anything other than figure out how do we support our students so that they can complete whatever their degree is. But we won't be forcing this down anyone. This is all voluntary. But I think when we show you the data, I just want to read some data that I got this morning. It's not different than anyone has heard already. In our district, there was the Hope Survey, or the conversation rather, it'll become available. 75% of our students say they're experiencing some kind of insecurity, homelessness, hunger, whatever the case may be. 51% of them are food insecure. 68% of them are housing insecure. 28% of them are homeless. This begins to chip away at that piece so that the student doesn't have to decide between buying a book for class or taking their courses and or sleeping on the couch or in their car, which many of our students are doing. So I think if we work collaboratively, we can identify those courses that there absolutely needs to be a book. And I'll close with this. I still haven't gotten this answer. I raised a question to some of our deans. What does the average student spend on books in a semester? And no one can give me that answer. which means that we really don't even know what it costs for a student, if they were a full-time student, to take 12 units or 15 units. So I'm trying to get a better understanding of how much money do I need to raise so that I could, in fact, provide a scholarship or a grant to a student to go strictly toward books so that they don't have to make the decision between paying the rent and buying books. I think I saw that in the, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, there is a stipulation though in the grant that those recipients that get the grant, that department must provide DTC for that entire department. So ASL has to forever be DTC because we were a recipient of that grant. So that's kind of, you know, within the classroom, the professors have alleviated with academic freedom. But I guess Andy wants to chip in on that.
Yeah, academic freedom is what you do in the classroom. If the departmental faculty, the faculty themselves decide that this is the materials they're going to use for their classes. And this happened with our graphic arts program, and it went through discussions with AFT and everything, and it was confirmed that if a department faculty approaches or says this is our approach, and one of the reasons behind this is because of articulation agreements and the types of activities that some of our transfer institutions want to see in those classes. They are welcome to teach those in the way that they do in their classrooms. But if the department adopts a textbook, the VTC thing, then that's what the department has decided. When somebody comes in and teach that, that's what they're expected to use. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have, whole sets for classrooms like we've been doing and stuff. There's all sorts of different ways we could do this. But yeah, we went through this with the design program last year. And that's what the discussion ended up with. And so I just wanted to add that.
I just have a follow-up question. So if a new faculty member comes on board, they don't have the choice to teach, and maybe they have expertise that bring to the table in another book they really like to teach. They don't have a material. They have the option to decide individually. This department is not among them all the time.
Well, I think you also do it in different departments too, because English, there's no way you're gonna all decide on,
Right.
we're gonna use all this. And you teach different themes throughout English too. So I don't think that's a good example of that. But if somebody came, again, this person came from Miramar here, wanted to do things the way they had done it and with materials they had done. And it didn't jive with our articulation agreements. And so we had the discussion with AFT about what academic freedom means. And according to them, if the department faculty decides this is how we're going to do ZTC, and you're given money to do ZTC, then that's what the department faculty decide. And so if you have a new person that comes over from Southwestern College who's been using the same thing all the time, and it doesn't fit in with your program and your predictable pathways, and the types of things that you do. I mean, the other thing is you follow the core, and that's fine, because that's what you're obligated to. But that was the discussion we had, and we spent a lot of time talking about it.
Yeah, and I'm going to insert myself here at a level that I don't traditionally. I really would say that we're trying to have a specific conversation about a broader group of things that are yet to be determined. But Mona, if I understand your question, and I believe that I do, that we would do everything in our power to try to make that course free. So that might be a situation, Andy, where we would try to figure out a way to buy the book, or what are alternative ways to make this work. Because what I don't want Mona hearing is that in that situation, we would force this down the faculty member's throat, which we just don't have a history of that, period. Right? We'd have to come to an understanding of how do we make this work within both people's or the department's needs and or agreement and the person who's bringing in an additional learning material that may be appropriate for the classroom.
Yeah, and I
We try to
also think-
figure that out.
I also think that's part of the hiring process, is understanding what the culture of the department is and the approach.
I mean, you guys need to be conscious that, you know, we're constantly reviewing new materials and especially with different technological options that become available. You know, we make adoptions usually annually, but we change our minds on materials, especially after going through and using them.
Agreed.
You know, and I just want to say that, yeah, we're gonna need the flexibility that change decisions that we make.
Yes, I don't think it's actually changed, because you're talking about we, that's the part.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. And what I can assure you is that no one's going to be forced to do something. But when, you know, a department takes this on, we've got to figure out how to make it work. Whether that be buying books or whether it's software, whatever the case may be. The point that I would rather us focus on, maybe because it's easier for me to focus on it, is how do we make this free for students? And so that could mean someone changing their mind or someone adopting a text or whatever, a curriculum that goes through a process. And then how do we raise the resources so that we offset the cost to the student? I think we focus that, then we get less into the minutia of, you know, do I get to bring my book or my thing or that sort of thing? Because that's where, for me, this goes a little murky. When it doesn't have to. And we have these resources to research how and when can we make this happen, because as you heard from Melanie already, in some cases, it won't be able to work with an OER type thing, right? It may have to be a class of books, it may have to be books in the reserve section. And we realized that, and even when we went to Smith River College, that's what they found. Like, it wasn't just a one size fits all every department in every program, but the point was, how do we identify particularly those costs that we want to either eliminate or reduce to students, and then focus on what the strategy is going to be to get to that point. And some of that is books, some of that is open educational resources, some of that is faculty, you know, really developing web-based books on their own. So there wasn't just one strategy for this. There's multiple approaches, and all those approaches point to trying to eliminate the costs that students pay, so that students aren't making decisions strictly on the cost of the learning materials in class. Melanie, any other things you would like to add, or any other questions, comments?
No, I think the benefit of VTC, this is the faculty, that you have so much flexibility that you can change it every semester. It's like, oh, I think this chapter was a little dull and wasn't informative, and you can swap it out with something new. And whereas if I personally have a physical book, I can't just take the chapter out, you know, delete. I would have to skip over it. So the benefit of VTC for me and for some other faculty is that you can constantly update. It is not something that just sits there and collects dust. It's kind of, you know, a cyclical process.
And then the other thing that I would add to that, and I would challenge all of our faculty and everyone, is just to talk to our students. And it's unfortunate, let me just publicly apologize, Melanie, we'll get it right with the presentation that we didn't get to hear from our students, because I think their testimony is very powerful. So I'm sure we'll send a PowerPoint out so that you all can see it. You know, talk to the students and find out how many of them show up to your classes the first day and they don't have a book, and ask them why don't they have a book. I think that to me is what's powerful, and particularly some of our most vulnerable students, you know, we're finding out, and the literature suggests that they don't have their books sometimes the second or third week into the semester. How far are they behind that they'll never catch up if that is the case? So some of this is also from an equity lens. How do you make sure that students have access to the learning materials prior to the start of the semester, so that they walk in with, you know, with a very real chance of passing classes? And you heard some of the data in terms of the success rate with ZTC versus non-ZTC. So we'll have some experiments over the next couple of years with the goal of getting to about 50%. We'll dive into this a little bit more in detail, where we'll have some faculty who have done this. One tease out and acknowledge the communications faculty, certainly Melanie, as well as the business faculty, Shana Carr, and the team over there when she was the dean or acting dean at the time, bought a whole set for career education programs. They've been doing this for a while. So I also acknowledge Jesse Lopez and his leadership with the team over there, because we've got some folks that are doing this and they got some very real data of the success rate of the students in their classes, pre textbooks and post pre textbooks. So more to come. Going to spend a little bit of time with this. Please, I would ask everybody to lean in, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see how this can work. Because yes, they are going to be expected normally to have a book when they get to wherever they're going. Anything else on this?
I just want to say, I think for me, one of the takeaways though was, and I think this is more for Selena, is trying to figure out how do we, with only 25% of the students knowing that the ZTC option was there, how do we do a better job of making sure that our students who need it, right, have the information. I love that 48% of psychology students knew that was an option. And I start to worry about how many of our students are making decisions without knowing, that is an option. So how do we do a better job of working with our student government, our ICC, to get them to at least know that that's something they can search on online. I didn't know. I learned something new.
So it's interesting you say that, Marciano, because of the budget, which is nearly $700,000, if my math is right. We are going to be ordering buttons that say, ask me about ZTC or ask me about free textbooks. We're going to have some t-shirts at Convocation as well as some other resources to get the marketing out there. So I got to say to Melanie, the help is on the way. Along with the other faculty who have been doing this, and so looking forward to it, and more to come.
Thank
Yeah,
you
no other
for
question.
the lot.
Yeah, thank you for what you're doing. I will turn it over to Suna, who will provide an update on the STEM project.
You want to do it here or?
I'll do it. Well, I mean, do you want me to go get run it? It's easier, because you know your PowerPoint too.
But if you want to tell me next, I'm happy to do it. You awesome.
So I'm sure all of you have heard about the mini STEM projects we've done over the last year and a half. And I want to say I have been so fortunate to work with the group of people I've worked with over the last year and a half. It's been comprised of a team of administration, primarily deans and our VP, and last year our VPSS. And this year a team of deans, last year as well, some classified professionals and supervisors. And then this year, we're working with faculty, some deans, and our VPI and classified professionals and supervisors. And I want to say these folks are going above and beyond and literally outside of their job description for the faculty, supervisors, and classified professionals to ensure that our students have what they need to enroll in the way that helps them transfer in a timely manner and reduces their time and makes it more likely that they can actually take classes. Last year, many of you know what we did was built on guided pathways and did predictable pathways. And Sean Bacon and his colleague Bradford Prairie took the lead on this, and they have met with about 85% of all programs to ensure that what each program is doing is offering classes in a timeline and in an order in which the students can actually start one semester, know what to expect every semester, so they can finish their degree in that program. This project, Integrated Scheduling for Student Success, actually builds on that work. And what we had designed it for initially was to
bring the chairs together to make sure that we're scheduling classes at times that students could take and that we weren't scheduling classes that overlapped. So if a student needed to get through biology, they have to take a lot of math classes, and sometimes the math classes weren't offered or the labs weren't offered. They conflicted. And so we wanted to get chairs in the room together to make sure that the classes were being offered all throughout the day so that the students could take them. And so this was the initial sort of starting point of integrated scheduling for student success. What we started out with, our project goal was to develop this process for integrated scheduling that supports student success. And we tied this to Vision 2030. And so our outcomes, what we wanted to do was to increase persistence from semester to semester and year to year. This correlates with goal 1 and goal 2 in Vision 2030 to increase the number of units students take. Again, goal 1 and goal 2, decrease the amount of time toward degree and transfer. A schedule that is student-centered to increase the fill rate and productivity and increase departmental collaboration. So this was what we started out with. And as we got started, what we discovered is that we were too ambitious in the scope of our projects, that we needed to do a lot of background work that we had not yet done. And so what we did was actually this semester focus on FTF allotment and scheduling priorities. So this fall, what we did is we completed an employee survey. It went out to all faculty, staff, and administration on what their guiding principles, actually not what their guiding principles, but what should be our campus's guiding principles for FTF allocation and scheduling priorities. And then we followed that up with a working meeting for all faculty, staff, and administration on the same thing, because we didn't want to just take the survey results. We wanted actual people in there working and having discussions about it and giving us not just quantitative, but qualitative feedback on this. And so from this, we developed and finalized, they're in the process of finalizing a process and a document for FTF allocation and FTS targets. So we had to back up and do that because as we were trying to come up with scheduling and how to move forward with an integrated scheduling model, we realized that we didn't know how our FTF was being allocated, and we didn't have a set procedure for FTF allocation. And that was causing a lot of concern because we can't schedule if we don't know what our FTF allocation is and if we can't depend upon it. So moving forward, before I get to that, I want to talk about the fall working meeting. What we actually proposed and what they worked on was a scorecard model for FTF allocation and scheduling. So we had them develop a strategic framework to evaluate and improve scheduling. The scorecard model also makes FTF allocation and scheduling transparent and consistent. These were the results. We wanted to promote equity and fairness by applying the same parameters to all divisions, that is, all programs, all disciplines. We wanted to make sure that it aligned with city principles, and we wanted to make sure that we provided enough flexibility so that we could adjust the parameters as student needs change and as city's goals evolve. So this document that is in the finalization process is really a living document, but it is a document that we critically need so that what we're doing is making sure that, first of all, we're meeting the needs of all of our City College students, not just one particular program's needs, right? And that as city changes and as our students change, we're able to adjust this document and review it. And so that's what we developed from the fall working meeting. So moving forward this spring, what they're going to be working on is a student survey on needs and preferences for scheduling and a student focus group on needs and preferences for scheduling. Clearly, we want the data, but we also want qualitative feedback. One of our big concerns with this is before, when we've got data on what students want in scheduling, it doesn't always align with what they actually take. And so that's why The predictable pathways along with this is so crucial that they're building on each other because we want to make sure that they're able to get through things. And if we aren't doing scheduling in a way that allows them to complete, then that is probably why they're not taking classes. That and they have a lot of other obligations. The end result, hopefully, is a documented structural process for developing an integrated schedule that supports the student completion so that we can get to those outcomes. So the next question would be, what does this team need? Well, this team needs one thing from everybody in this room and from everybody on campus. This team needs a firm commitment and support from all administrators, deans, VPs, the president, to actually follow this process. We need that because if we aren't thinking about our city students, if we're just thinking about the students from our school or the students from a particular program, then what we're doing is literally choosing one group of students over another. And our commitment to equity demands that we think about all of our students on campus. And when we have a process that says it depends, then what means is that things depend upon individual program interests or individual interests. It depends upon political alliances, or it depends upon the relationships you have. That's creating problems on our campus when we can't actually follow a process and follow this document. And so what this team needs to be successful, what this students need to be successful, is we need everybody in this room to really support and commit to following the document that the faculty and the staff and the students are developing, because that's what's going to serve our students. So as this is my last meeting here, I really, really hope that all of the work that this group did comes to fruition, because it's been a lot of work from a lot of dedicated people who've put in time that they're not really getting paid for, but they believe in what they're doing and they believe in our students and that their students need this. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sunag. Thank you, and please extend our appreciation to everyone involved in that. I would like to unpack though the defense, because actually one of my favorite. Where does, because there are these anomalies. 3 or 4 students need this class in order to graduate or transfer. Like, where does that fit in to this? And I haven't, because of the people working on it and because of my role, and I don't get to come to the meetings. Not because I'm not invited, just the way things work. Where does that factor into the commentary? Like these anomalies when they occur. And I'll share with you what I so that I can get a clarifying point, because you know I get that we need to follow process, and I'm a process-oriented person myself. But then there are these gray areas when there are anomalies where you can't be so rigid that you can't respond to emerging needs in real time. Where does that factor into this?
It's actually built into the document. That is, there is a list of priorities, and chairs should be following a predictable pathway, and they should be scheduling for that. So if they are not scheduling for that, then that's a problem for the chairs and the deans. The deans should be looking at that and saying, oh, you have these students who are graduating and you didn't schedule that class. So that's a commitment from the deans to look at the schedules and say, this schedule does not align with your predictable pathway, and the schedule does not align with the needs of the students. And past that, because sometimes things will come up, there is a list of priorities. And one of the priorities is to ensure that if there is extra FTEF, we actually provide that FTEF to those courses that students need to graduate. There's an entire list of priorities, and it's built on data. And that's why we need the commitment. This isn't an inflexible document. It takes into account those things. And again, it was built by faculty. It was built by administration. Administration has had input the entire way. Faculty have had input the entire way, as have classified professionals and supervisors who work with these things. People like the Promise Program, counselors. So everybody has had input in this.
Great. Any questions for our addition?
Great job. Hearing that we're gonna keep moving forward, gonna make up some lost time for the technology challenges we had. I'm going to turn it over to Susan to talk about Vision Aligned reporting.
Okay, thank you. I have a handout instead of slides, so just in your packet, it's the page after the minutes from the last meeting. So Vision Aligned reporting is a new process that was introduced by the State Chancellor's Office. We first learned about it in the spring of 2024 and just completed our reporting cycle, first reporting cycle, which covered the 24-25 academic year. So I'm not going to read all of this information to you. It applied to a specific set of programs that receive allocation, funding allocations from the state in the state's funding model, and those are listed here. Most of them are student services programs, but some of them are instructional, such as our dual enrollment programs and our middle college high school. This is in addition to the existing accountability reporting that all of these programs have to complete. Many of them submit data into the state MIS reporting system. Many of them complete reports on their expenditures and their activities in the NOVA system. And this was an additional system on top of that that looked at everything very differently. And it's an activity-oriented system. So rather than focus on how budget is allocated and that funds went to classified salaries in the 2000s category or other operating expenses in the 5000s category, this asked the programs, which activities did you engage in? And there were menus to choose from. So things like counseling or direct aid to students or outreach. And then within those categories, you identified specific activities. And then some of those required you to be able to tell how many students participated. And then there were the equity framework that they were using for the entire state looked at 3 student groups that had disproportionate impact relative to the Vision 2030 goals, and that their outcomes were not at the level of other groups, and those were economically disadvantaged students, Black or African American students, and Latino students. So within the numbers of students served, we needed to identify those subgroups where we could as well. So this was a pretty heavy lift, and it did not come with any resources. So I really want to express my appreciation to all of the program staffs, to Bernice and Genevieve and the teams in student services, to Sasha over Strong Workforce, to the research team who helped provide that disaggregated data when it hadn't been available. And each program identified the range was from the low end was at 3 and the high end was at 24 different activities that they reported on, with most programs being in the 8 to 12 range. So after all those individual programs submitted, then at the institutional level, we were expected to look across all of that data and create responses to the 4 vision goals that are listed here: completion, transfer, reducing the number of units of completion, and that's sometimes referred to as excess units. In other words, most associate degrees are 60 units. And most of our graduating students are leaving us with right around 80 units, which may mean that they pay for things or enrolled in things that took time that didn't end up counting toward their graduation, didn't end up helping them meet their educational goal. And then preparation for the workforce, particularly with a focus on higher wage careers. So for each goal, we addressed 5 prompts, and each of those prompts, we were limited to 3 statements in response, and those statements had to be 200 characters or fewer. So that in itself was a challenge to try to come up with this sort of, pithy, summative remark that talked about something that that we had actually done as a college. So I want to thank the folks. There was a joint work group from City Planning and the Ideas Council. Lisa was part of that. Thank you for helping me wrestle with those constraints and come up with our statements. And we have those. I can share them, or they're available online if anybody wants to see them. But we had 3 statements for each goal, or each of these 5 prompts, highlighting our progress, steps that we took to braid or blend funding or resources or integrate across programs, strategy supports that support equity, barriers, and then any changes planned going forward. So all of that has been submitted. The due date was yesterday. This is continuing for the 25-26 academic year, but with in a slightly different form. The programs that are included, one new program is being added, and that is our ANAPI student services that are receiving a state allocation. The programs will not be reporting their total counts of students in this VAR platform, but they will be submitting information through the MIS process. Now, our current system at our district primarily uses PeopleSoft and Campus Solutions student information to pull information for the MIS submissions to meet all of those requirements. Not all of this activity level data is being captured at that level. So the district has come up with a kind of workaround process where each program has a spreadsheet to record that student level activity that will get submitted to the district, so the district can add that to the MIS file, which for fall semester is due at the end of January. So this is all still evolving, and everybody involved, has new learning and new processes that they're having to adjust to.
Just a quick question about the activities data. I was under the impression that we're changing the way that we're tracking activities. Is that going to affect this? The context of like the math center and the tutorial center. I know that they're going to a different tracking system, and I was under the impression that lots of student-based activities were going to go to that same thing. Is that going to help?
There has been conversation about other programs and services adopting the tracking system that the tutorial centers have started to use over the past year. I don't know. There are also other systems being considered. I don't know that this final decision has been made about any one of them. And one of the big questions is if data from that system would move into PeopleSoft in order to be picked up by MIS, or if, like the workaround we have now, we take data directly from these other systems, reformat it, and then add it to MIS. There's a big group meeting at the district level that includes, some representatives from the programs, the IE deans at each campus, and my counterparts. We all got tasked with organizing the response from each college to this new state requirement. There are IT folks in the room, folks from educational services. And there, things are still under discussion at this point, but that's the concept. Is very much like what has been happening. I think the method is still, under review. So, all of these folks, plus Josh and our Anapi program, are still going to be engaged in this activity in the coming year. They just, closed the system for 24-25, so we haven't seen exactly what the 25-26 system will look like, whether it will want the same kind of written responses to the vision goals, whether they will change the categories, that is all yet to be determined. But it's been a process. It has been a lot of coordination. I think we are still a ways from having a consistent approach to this across programs within our college and across colleges within our district, and certainly across colleges at the state level. And one more thing I did want to say is that we were assured by the Chancellor's Office folks all throughout this process that this is not intended to be auditable information. It is intended to help illustrate the kinds of activities and outcomes that are happening at the campus level when they are having policy level discussions or funding discussions with the legislature about the value of these kinds of programs. So again, it doesn't replace the accountability reporting that these other these programs are also doing. That's all I have. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Susan? Thank you. Yes, thank you, Susan. We are going to table item 6. I am going to ask John to take 7 and 8 together. And then we may, item 10 is part of 11. But John, I'm going to turn over to you.
Sure, thank you. Actually, I just sent an email to Lieutenant Hughes and to dispatch, and Archie, Lieutenant Hughes is calling me now. I'll be back to Lieutenant Hughes with review. We've had a lot of close calls in parking lot 10, near confrontations with parents sitting unauthorized in designated parking spaces, double parking, near misses with students at our driveway and crosswalks at Park and Russ, all along Russ. We've seen it all. I've reported several, I've witnessed several. Marciano and Ricky have witnessed twice this week. In the past week, you haven't been able to park in your space. So it's gotten a little out of control, and I have asked for active monitoring, especially during morning drop-off times with high school, with our college. And in the afternoon, during release time of the high school, and throughout the day, active monitoring, citation if needed. It's become a nuisance for our prospective students. Many of our visitors, even when we have events, set out our VIP signs and with vendors. So this becomes, it's more of a safety and risk management issue than anything, in addition to access for our potential students, their parents. So we're trying to get ahead of this and create a plan going forward to actively monitor and provide traffic control at this corner for us all the way to the building. So I'll be back shortly to discuss that plan. Additionally, parking lot 10 will be closed while the campus is closed. They'll be digging up the parking lot for soil samples, actually, for the building expansion. I don't have the exact dates, but told it was told this morning, it will be during the time in which the campus will be closed entirely. But that information is important. Campus safety, several reports says, I think most of us know here today, that ICE was on campus yesterday, and I sent out an email. ICE was not actually on campus. ICE was spotted near the campus, adjacent to the campus, regarding an unrelated incident, which sounds like it started at Albertsons, and the agent was near the campus and was posted on social media. We immediately notified our dispatch, and we were in conversation with our lieutenant. They had not heard anything. They had not heard of any operations from local authorities or SDPD, sorry, and that they would keep us apprised. So we wanted to be very measured and intentional before we sent out a message. We took our time, wanted to make sure that we had all of the correct information. That's the email that went out, and we were deliberate in not sending out a Live Safe or SDCC safe alert. We wanted to send it to employees that no, ICE is not on campus. They were not on campus. Our police do not engage in any operations. They collaborate or corroborate with ICE agents. And here are the steps that Caesar later sent out to the campus community in the event that we do see ICE agents on campus. And in fact, Caesar was able to provide an update. It was a Channel 10 today, but regarding our steps, our protocol, our procedures, that we do not engage. We inform, we only communicate or refer them to the chancellor or our legal counsel. And in fact, yesterday I had got a report and I got the text. See a car here, it's parked, looks suspicious. It was an ICE agent, so I walked on over there. I missed them. I did not see them. However, there were a couple of students who had taken it upon themselves based on the information that they received that my notice had gone out. And so they were patrolling the perimeter of the campus, and they stopped me and said, "Hey, are you Dr. Parker?" "Yes, I am." "Did you see the email?" In fact, I did. I sent the email out, and they said, "Hey, we are patrolling, and we have a report of a car on 16th and B. I went over there, it wasn't there." So they have taken I don't know who's leading this, who authorized it, but they did tell me as students that they are patrolling the campus. I informed them of our protocols. I also informed them that it's okay to use the Live Safe app. That way we will have the information real time. And if I'm anywhere within close proximity and I'm available, I will go there myself and I will alert the people. Anything that you any questions?
Questions? This is real. It took on a life of its own. As the flow of information. In fact, I was walking to my office and I was greeted by 3 or 4 students, and the latest was that I had stopped ICE from coming on campus. And we got to just be careful about the rumor mill when things like this happen, because again, it had taken on a life of its own, which caused us to have to send something out. And in fact, we were forwarded messages on social media that said that ICE stopped the people from coming on campus. As John has said, there was never a threat of ICE coming on campus. They were in the area. I would remind us that we are probably less than 5 or 6 blocks away from a federal building, that our protocols are in place. The likelihood of this happening, probably compared to ever in my life, is actually very high. So I don't want to downplay that this could in fact happen with what we're watching happening across the country. I mean, we saw on CNN a Somali American, a U.S. citizen who was taken by ICE. So these things are real. So we are taking it real. I would just also add that the exec team walked to Magali and the Undocumented Resource Center to check in with her and the students who were in the center to remind them of how we would communicate if ICE was on campus. So we're ready to go if any of this happens. But I would ask people that if you don't hear it from us, chances are it's not happening, right? So we do need to remind folks not to believe everything you see or hear on social media. I'm not saying it couldn't have been true, because it could very well been true. If that officer would have gotten out of their car and then got on the campus, we were prepared. As John said, we dispatched the police to assess the situation. We went and checked the situation and was not able to confirm, although there was something that took place in our area. We got questions for, well, if this happens, what should I do if I'm in my classroom or if I'm in my space? Can I lock the doors? Absolutely, you can do that. You should do whatever you think is appropriate to protect yourself and our students. Because we absolutely have students who, if ICE came on campus, could be very vulnerable in an act like that. And so we're going to support you for doing what you believe is right at the time. But please check with us before you decide to do something based on word of mouth or what you've read on the internet. Many of you have our personal cell phone numbers. Text us, call us, use the LiveSafe app. We've also heard from students that, well, I may not want to send a message through the LiveSafe app because it'll go to campus police. And I would just remind us all that our board policy is that our police are not going to cooperate with ICE if they came on. And so if you've got to decide between using the app or not using the app, if you confirmed that ICE is on campus, I would ask you to use the app so that it goes to multiple people and we can spring into action. Because, you know, with the way our campus is set up with open streets in between us, you know, they could, if they were going to enter the campus, enter at any place. And we need to receive that information so we can alert the appropriate people. Thank you, Tia, for sharing the communication that has gone out and is in various offices in terms of how we are going to respond to ICE, which is we would refer them to the district, the chief of police, and the chancellor. And I would say you could say that, you can hand them the card that we have, or you can not say anything to them at all. Allow us to mitigate and respond to that appropriately. Any questions?
I just really wanted to reinforce, and I'm just going back to the clip that we saw yesterday. And to your point that there's a high probability. And if there is at any point, as Ricky mentioned in our protocol outlines, we can definitely shelter in place our doors and check our students and our employees. But do not confront or obstruct or touch a federal agent because of harassment. And I've seen that on social media. It's gone bad really fast.
And with that said, we're going to do whatever we can to protect our students. But yes.
And only the chancellor and the general counsel are authorized to speak with them, or is it also
So that is our district policy, which when you're dealing with the federal government, you typically would want one point of contact, right? And that really is our way to get them off of the campus into the district so that no student who would be vulnerable by them being here would have to engage with them, right? So really why we're saying that is we want to get them off the campus into the district where our campus legally. You don't have anyone who is legal, who works in legal here on campus. The chief of police is not based here. And so that really is our motive to get them off of campus. Hey, you're not welcome here. If you have business here, you need to go to the district and meet with the chancellor. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be the one saying that. Other questions? This is real. We are ready. When or if this happens, I hope that it doesn't happen. To echo it again, I think the probability of it happening is higher than I ever experienced. We're living in very interesting times, folks. And so we are prepared for the worst case scenario, and we hope and frankly pray that it doesn't happen. Any other safety updates, John? Want to tackle the parking too, and just for the record, because this is being taped. This is less about somebody parking in my parking space than you parking. And
I did reinforce this about.
and more about when you're in that region of Park and Russ, there are people parked on both sides of the street. And one side of the street is actually red, no parking. So if you're trying to get in or out of that area, where there are entrances, deliveries to the bookstore, deliveries to the cafeteria, around 3:30 and around, I would say 8:30, you cannot get, that is no longer a two-way street because of the amount of parking in areas that you're not supposed to park. That's both in Lot 10 and more importantly on the street. So we'll have to work with San Diego Unified. And I am afraid that a student, whether it be a high school student or a college student, is going to be hit because of the spacing there. So thank you, John. Moving right along. We're going to turn over to Caesar to provide an update on the annual report.
Yeah, just real quick, the 2024-25 annual report is available. It is online. I have a couple copies for you here. It includes the highlights of students, alumni, faculty, our budget information. So feel free to peruse the annual report. Anybody have a question about the annual report?
Well done, Caesar. Thank you.
Well, so we'll have some printed copies in our office beginning January, but right now it's online for folks to view.
You want to take number 11 also, please?
Yes. And so we also have a 36-hour work week landing page. As you know, in January 5th, we'll be going to pilot our 36-hour work week. And let me share my screen. And so it just has information on the hours of our student support services. So they'll be closing at 1 o'clock on Fridays. We also included a video for students that we shared on social media and emails, letting folks know that we will be piloting the 36-hour work week. You can see the splash page right there. And so as we go through this pilot, we'll be updating that page as we get more information and as we go through the pilot. And the URL is .edu/hours.
Great. Please share this information, and we continue to need your help and support with having people download the SDCCD SAFE app and to know how the RAVE system works and updating their phone number in the PeopleSoft system. So we continue to need your help with that. Would invite you all to the holiday party tomorrow, this evening. We have the joint board meeting between San Diego Unified School District and our board. And tomorrow is our last board of trustee meeting of the semester. And with that, I bid you all a great holiday break, well deserved. It's been intense. I will see you all in the new year.